Okie doke. Well, welcome. We'll see how many other folks join us during the summer heat here. Before I get started, did anybody have anything they wanted to bring up to address specifically? If not, I'll just jump into whatever news I've happened to find. As I was scanning through all the solar news for the last actually 2 weeks, a couple of things I found interesting. Most of the news was just about, big projects being done, lots of big projects, lots of big storage things. I did see that there's a huge project in New Jersey where they're taking a landfill, an old landfill that's a super fund, and creating a solar array on it, which I think is something we're going to see a lot more of. This thing's going to be generating for 4,000 homes. There was a report from Energy Sage. They do a lot of surveying out in the field for pricing. And they were saying that year over year, so a year ago, PV prices as a whole have declined about 6%, which is not unusual. But storage prices for batteries have increased 10%. So that is unusual considering lithium ion has been coming down in price so much. And it appears to just simply be a case of demand outstripping supply. There's so much demand for battery systems now. I heard a podcast where they were saying 40% of all systems installed in California are now incorporating storage. So when you start to see this kind of ramp up of demand, I think we're going to see a short-term supply shortage in addition to all the other short-term supply shortages we're seeing, in the country at the moment. So we're probably going to see storage prices continue to go up or hold steady at least for a while. A big deal was the California Energy Commission last week voted to require solar plus storage for all commercial and multifamily new buildings built in the state of California. So a couple of years ago, they had voted that all residential had to incorporate solar. Now they're saying solar plus storage for commercial and multifamily starting in 2022. And they're also saying starting in 2022, all residential new builds have to be storage compatible, which basically means a minimum of a 225 amp hour bus bar on the service panel and 4 backed up circuits minimum. So essentially they're saying you got to have a critical load panel or a panel that splits out for critical load in all new builds in California. So I suspect we'll begin to see that replicated around the country. We're already seeing about 12 different states now looking at implementing the mandate for all new residential having solar. So California tends to lead the nation on that. So that'll be interesting. And also I was talking with Bruce here before we got started, and he mentioned about volunteering on solar installs. And if people, want to do some volunteer work on solar installs or have projects that they want help in installing, there are a bunch of students who have gone through the courses who are interested in that. And I created a forum called Ohio Solar Installers on Facebook that if you want to participate in there, that's where I've been telling people to join, to put their name out there, say, okay, I'm interested, or I have a project that's interested. So it's obviously not limited to Ohio, but apparently Facebook does require that you have to be a friend of mine before I can invite you to join. So if you request being a friend of mine and ask me to put you on there, I can do that. I tried to make it public, but they don't let me do that either. It's a private group, so you have to be invited to join. And don't worry about being my friend because I never post anything on Facebook, so I won't bother you at all. So I just figured nobody cares what I had for breakfast. So, that's, let's see, I just clicked something off here. All right, so let's see. That was all the news I had there. I thought I would talk a little bit about vehicle to home, but again, I'll ask anybody if you've got anything that you think is a question, a technical question, or anything you're working on that you've observed, or any news that you want to share with the group. Let me know right now, so I don't want to hog it up otherwise. Okay, so let me, yeah, Ohio Solar Installers. Yeah, so send me okay, if you friend me on Facebook, that's the way I have to invite you to the Ohio Solar Installers. So you got to go in and friend Jay Warmke, or ask to be my friend. I'll make you my friend, and then I'll invite you to that group. Okay, so vehicle to home, vehicle to grid. I think we've talked about this before, but I wanted to bring it up again because I've been thinking on this. And to me, this is going to be one of the most dramatic cultural shifts that we're going to see as far as the electric grid is concerned. And this is where your vehicle can operate as a backup system for your home. So instead of going out and buying batteries, you can use your car. Your car electric vehicle already has a big battery, so why not use that? And I've been kicking that around for a couple of years, and I've just been wondering, how far are we down that path to making this a reality? Because basically the features, as I see it, one really nice feature is you can use your car as a battery backup for your home in case the grid goes down. So you've got that, UPS function there. You can also do load shifting, peak demand shaving, things like that to deal with your electric bill if you're in a region where they have variable price billing and things of that nature. And that's a big deal in some places like California, Arizona, those kind of places where they charge you more for solar or more for power in the evening than in the afternoon. You can store the power in your battery in the afternoon and then draw from your battery in the evening to offset the higher cost electricity. So, and of course, if you're working at an office, you can charge your car at the office and then use your boss's electricity for your home in your evening, which is great. That's how I got all my pens, so we just, use electricity that way. But the other aspect is the vehicle to grid, where the grid can use this mass of vehicles as dealing with peak, with higher than anticipated load demand. So they can draw from the vehicles rather than have to buy power on the open market or have rolling blackouts or whatever. And they can also, clean up their power. They can run the power through Windows is messing with me. Every time I try and click on somebody, they want to send me news. All right. So anyway, yeah, they can clean up their power. They can get rid of surges. They can get rid of transients. They can, reorient the wave form, things of that nature by running it through the battery banks. So as I was saying, the V2H or the V2G, the vehicle to grid or the vehicle to home, I think is going to be a really dramatic impact on us societally. But I wanted to look to see what's out there at the moment, because it's always good to have these things off in the future, but what's available. So I started researching and I found a company called CTech Power. They have a bi-directional charging station available, although they wanted me to fill out a lot of forms to get a quote, so I didn't, because I don't want them to know who I am or what I'm doing or send me spam. So anyway, but it works only with the Nissan Leaf. It utilizes a CHAdeMO interface. That's the main plug that most vehicles in the US, except for the Teslas, use. And I actually saw that it's a very weird acronym, CHAdeMO, lowercase de, capital MO, and it actually stands for chargé de motel, from French. So it's chademol, chademol. It's obviously from French. But this is a bi-directional. It works with the leaf. Output up to 6 kW, 20 amp circuit, 92% efficient. So it doesn't sound great, but I suspect it's a relatively low cost version. And relatively low cost is the key here, because by the time I finally found one that would tell me what it costs, and it was considered the low cost option, the Wallbox Quasar, and it's $4,000 for this charging station. So I think these things are going to be in the $4,000 to $10,000 range, I suspect, which is maybe why nobody's buying them, or very few people are. The Wallbox Quasar is a 7.4 kW with a 32 amp process. Now, apparently, I did find an article that was saying that the only vehicles that are considered compatible for bi-directional charging in the US are the Nissan Leaf and the Mitsubishi Outlander. But the Outlander isn't even on the market just yet. So it's a brand new vehicle coming out. But the Leaf, anything since 2013 to modern, is considered bi-directionally chargeable. So that's another reason why there aren't a lot of these, I suspect, because you'd have to own a Leaf. There's the big name in this, I guess, at the moment is Delta. Delta has a 10 kW, 97% efficient. It can serve as your primary inverter if it's a grid-tied solar system. So that's a big deal, obviously. So it's obviously a DC bimodal inverter with a charging station connected to it. That's when I saw the architecture, that's what it seemed to be, like a DC coupled system with the charger built in. 45.5 amps of output. Again, it is a Chademo. Then there's another one called NUV, I guess it is, NUVVE. That looks like a bigger one, 19 kW, 80 amps. So those were the four that I found. But then I found a very interesting article about Tesla and how Tesla has been sort of quietly on the QT working on bi-directional charging. And apparently they built it in to their cars. It's not part of the charging station. It's integrated within the vehicle itself. So when you hook up to a standard charging station, the word on the street is when they enable it, they'll be able to enable it through a software fix and simply now enable bi-directional charging the same way that they enabled driverless vehicles, through just a software upgrade. Because with the Tesla, at night, they send out a lot of software upgrades and these vehicles get all sorts of interesting new features. Now, that's all great. And this was integrated in the Model 3, but it appears their motivation is they want to be the guys selling the services to the grid. So it's your vehicle, but they're going to begin charging the utilities for cleaning up their power. And Tesla says we've got 1 million of these vehicles out on the streets. That represents like 20 gigawatts of storage capacity. So can't we, meaning the company Tesla, monetize this in some way by selling grid services, grid cleanup, power services? Nowhere did it indicate they're going to enable it for vehicle to home, backup. I don't know. They kept saying you're going to have the option to opt in or opt out, but I suspect it's a lot like Facebook giving me the option to do things that I don't seem to have any option to do, like And every time they upgrade the software, they change the settings back to whatever it was they wanted them to be. And then you'd have to opt in or opt out again. So, all right, so that's what I found. So anybody have any comment on the V2H or V2G situation?
Jay, I'm sorry I missed the beginning part, but I'm just curious if these systems that you're talking about with the being able to access bidirectionally the batteries in the cars is not for home backup or home use of the power. I mean, how much you're going to have to charge the vehicles first, and maybe you get a free charge out there in the neighborhood someplace, or maybe you have it. I don't know if you can get it directed to your connected to your panels to be charged that way. I mean, what's the point in selling it back to the utilities at night? Typically, I mean, I'm just trying to understand what their business model is.
Well, what the benefit to the car owner or what the benefit to the grid is,
or either. Frankly, I mean, if you know, at night, I get at night if we all go solar, that it's better to have that. But if I'm the car owner, you know, at night, I don't want to run down the charge in my car so that when I wake up in the morning to go to work, whenever we go back to work, my car is depleted the same way my battery bank is depleted in the morning when I go, overnight.
Right.
And it charges back up the next day.
I think obviously there would have to be some sort of safeguards dealing with the depletion, that you can only be drawn down to 90% or something like that. Because it doesn't work if they're going to drain your battery. But currently what they're talking about is not so much using it as a nighttime source of energy. They're talking about for the V2G, usually peak load demand is going to be in the middle of the afternoon on a hot day. So they're saying, okay, rather than dealing with that 1 hour surge of demand at 4 p.m. when the air conditioners are going, can't we draw some of that power from the vehicles that are sitting in parking lots before people go home? So that would be the drawdown at the moment. But also, as the power runs through the grid, it picks up transients, it picks up a lot of dirty signal. And if you can then run that power through the battery system, like I can convert it from AC to DC, put it in your car battery, now convert it from DC to AC, I get a clean signal.
Power,
and off it goes. So that's another service that they want to put out there.
They sell me that at Best Buy with my universal backup. Clean power, yes. Yeah. Yes, for all my to save my TVs and computers. Yeah.
Right. So I could see that as a need for the utility, and there's a value there. Yeah. My guess is there will be a day when these charging stations that you pull up to at Walmart or at your office building or wherever says you can charge here for free. In exchange, we have the right to basically use your car as a backup. And that seems reasonable and fair. If you're, let's say I'm here at the university campus, if every student parking space had a charging station and the university gets the right to use all these vehicles as a UPS for the campus in exchange for providing free electricity from a solar array during the day, fair exchange. The thing that the car dealers are worried about, and the reason the Tesla or the Nissan Leaf is the only one compatible, is they're concerned that if you're charging and discharging the battery while you're not driving it, you're going to wear down the life of the battery bank. And they're guaranteeing these things for X number of miles, but you could be using it a lot without putting any miles on the vehicle. So the warranty issues are the big issue. But some of the discussion from Tesla has been that they're developing what they call a 1,000,000-mile battery, and if they get batteries that are robust enough to withstand that kind of use, then that becomes less of a concern. So, so the vehicle manufacturer, if they're warranting it, has to, I guess, see value to them as well as value to the customer.
Okay. But I guess, let me ask, you said that they cost $4,000 to put one of these in. What's motivating me to to spend the $4,000? Let me put it that way. Maybe that's an easier way to ask my question.
Yeah, nothing right now. I mean, I
Okay,
wouldn't do
so
it. Yeah,
okay.
it's a technology that's on the horizon, but
Mhm.
nothing is there today to make it a present day reality.
Okay.
But what I guess my argument is something will become, it will develop, whether it's in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10, whatever,
Mhm.
to where this becomes a game changer, where we have a distributed energy backup system connected to the grid. And what does that mean
Mhm.
to solar? What does it mean to society? What does it mean to the grid?
Right.
Um, to
Presumably,
be,
you're doing this to avoid building more infrastructure for the power plants. I mean,
that's part of it, sure.
I mean,
I mean, I
isn't
could
that where the
see,
biggest money is?
well, yes, but again, the power plants, I mean, you have conflicting interests. I really don't care if AEP saves money or not. You know, it's not going to help me. I'm
Well,
not going to put
it
in
goes
this.
into your rates.
Yeah, but I'm not going to spend $4,000 to make their life easier.
I agree.
So
That's why I asked the question. It doesn't seem to make any sense economically from an individual perspective.
yeah, but
But I mean, I can see
AEP might give me the charger. Now, if AEP gives me
right.
the charger, then
Yeah,
maybe I've got a different feeling about the whole thing.
right.
You know?
But you have to. They probably require you to get, promise you'll plug it in when you get home. Otherwise, they haven't just put a charger there for you not to use.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and when these chargers get to be $300 or $400, then that changes the economics of things as well. Because if
Mhm.
I had if I had a unit, I would put it in to back up my home, in case of power outages or fluctuations and the like.
Mhm.
If my utility used it also to clean their own power signal, I wouldn't really
Mhm.
care, as long as I'm getting
Yeah.
what I need out of it. So I think we'll find the power cleaning is a secondary issue, or it might be the motivating issue for the car dealers to give you this when you buy your car. We're going to give you a
Mhm.
bi-directional charger. And oh, by the way, we're going to keep some money out of this, but you're going to get your bi-directional charger. So I think we may find that, partners who will provide this thing at a low
Mhm.
cost or free, in exchange for them monetizing it however they do.
Okay.
And so I just think it's going to be huge. Yeah. One guy is mentioning that his co-op has a program that turns off the power in the water heater, and that's basically one of those. That's an old program, where you could get $5 off your electric bill or whatever. And maybe that's something that they'll do as well, is give you a cash incentive for
Mhm.
hooking this thing up, just like they used to do for we can turn off your hot water heater. But I think the utilities are moving towards having that capacity, whether you want to or not, to deal with emergency situations. Like when we get a situation like in Texas where the natural gas caused the problem during the winter of lack of electricity, then they could argue that
Mhm.
they have the need from a public health standpoint to turn off everybody's hot water heater so they don't turn
Mhm.
off your electricity. So, that's a fair argument on their part. Turn down your thermostat, turn off your hot water, turn off your car charging stations. They're going to control some of that to avoid massive outages, or they could just fix their grid, but
They
that would
could,
be
yeah.
too
They'll just
simple.
control you.
Yeah. Yep. I think we're seeing some of that going on right now. So who knows? I think I'm being worn down by society. So I'm like, okay, whatever, it's like when you go into a doctor's office or something. All right, do what you're gonna do. I'm just too tired to argue. So
You don't want the badgering anymore?
yeah. That's right. So I think that this is going to be a massive thing, and all the problems that come with it. How do we deal with that? I could see a motivation, let's say from a company. What if when you're charging this thing, they're downloading all the data from where you've just driven? where you went, how you went, where you stopped, it's
So
that.
you think the CIA is going to be funding this?
I think Google, Facebook,
Or
those
Google? Yeah,
guys.
Google. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the guys who want to know all this stuff. Like every time now I mention a product when I'm sitting in my office, I start getting emails and ads trying to
You have
sell me
Siri?
that product. I've got that little "Hey Google" thing,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm sure it's listening to me.
That they said only listens to you when you tell it to wake up.
Yeah, right. But every so often, I won't even be mentioning it, and I'll get this it'll talk to me, and it'll say, "I don't understand what you asked for." I say, "I didn't ask for anything, I mean, quiet." So anyway, there's no such thing as privacy in this world. So, all right. Anybody have any, and I'm not cutting you off, Don, but anybody have
Oh,
any
no.
issues, concerns, things to bring up, other than my sense of wonder with the whole idea of V2G and V2H. Mark my words, integrating that in with the Internet of Things, where your power lines are going to be a communications device, you're got a distributed storage system, you're integrating microgrids into the system. It really is going to just change our grid network to the same extent that that wireless and the internet changed the communication system. So this is going to be a 2-decade transformation that we're about to undertake. And it's going to be pretty amazing and pretty disheartening. How long does it take to charge up a Tesla at home without solar? Yeah, I just saw something on that. Oh, they were saying, I think they said 45 minutes to 80%, using a standard fast charger, the 240. The Tesla, with or without solar, doesn't matter. Whether you have solar or you don't have solar, that's independent of it. But it's the last 20% of charging that takes all the time. So you can get 80% pretty quick. Some of those super DC charging stations that you can get at a gas station, the units that's charge at 1,000 volts DC or whatever, and 500 amps or however they're dumping that stuff in, those will do it much faster. But I know my charging station, I have a Prius Prime. It takes 6 hours to charge. And I think it only charges 7 kWh, 7 kilowatt hours. So that's slow, but it's a 120 outlet. Yep. So the comment there is that around Youngstown, they see a lot of Teslas and charging stations, but not a lot of solar. And again, these things, a charging station in today's market is just another AC app. It's like hooking up a dryer. It's just a 240 app in the home, and you're plugging into the grid there. So, but once we begin to integrate with bi-directional, then it becomes a thing. And then we as solar installers are going to have to figure out how to integrate it in our system. But right now, it's just another, 40 amp, 50 amp AC 240 circuit in your system. So, all right. Hearing no other comments here, I'm going to go ahead and cut us all short. All right. We'll see you next Tuesday. Take care. Have a nice hot week. All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good week. Yeah.
Thanks.